Dialogic Disciple is an invitation
to explore discipleship
in dialogue with the world as disciples of the Word. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dialogic Disciple Podcast. I'm here with my co-host,
Elizabeth Johnson.
Elizabeth Johnson, who got her name right this time. Fantastic.
Wow,
and we have a special guest with us in the studio today.
We have a very special guest.
Ken, introduce yourself.
Ken Snell. Do you know I've been at Northside almost 4 years.
Is that right? Oh, wow.
In July will be 4 years following the great Nick Houston. You know, I mention him so that maybe he'll listen to the podcast. Right?
You also have a very special ministry anniversary coming up, don't you? Or did that fly by and I miss it?
No, in July, I will have actually been in full-time ministry for 50 years.
50 years. Full-time ministry.
Started in 1976 as a full-time college ministry, campus ministry intern at the University of Tennessee. So
you like to mark your ministry with the birthdays of America, right? 200 years you start, 250, here we go.
I remember having one of those ties that said 1776 to 1976.
Wow, so you've been in full-time ministry for 50 years. What are some of the things you've done in serving the church?
You know, I did campus ministry full-time that was 6 years, a director of a campus ministry. I did youth ministry after that.
Oh, everybody's got to pay their dues.
You know, the good thing, the step up from college ministry to youth ministry is your constituents in youth ministry have to go home at some point.
College ones don't.
The college ones don't.
They actually live there.
You know, they call you at all times of the night, you know, end up playing Frisbee golf in the church parking lot at 2 a.m.
Hey, sometimes. That's real ministry.
Then I've been a worship minister and really for about the last 15 years have done this kind of administrative role.
Okay.
And, you know, part of it I did while I was still a worship minister.
Yeah.
And then eventually moved into this role since I've kind of been through a lot of the other kinds of ministry, I feel like I have a perspective to sort of support people.
Excellent.
In ministry and come from that perspective. So it's been a blessing.
You are the executive director here at Northside now for almost 4
director
years,
for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that entails all kinds of different things here at Northside. You're kind of the hidden backbone of
a lot of finances, facilities,
some HR,
hiring, etc.
All right.
So it's
also, I would say just keeping a general calm and Christ-minded presence. You do a very good job of that, and you're like a pillar down there. I don't know, you bring something that we were missing before you got here. I love Nick.
Appreciate that.
Love Nick Houston, but you bring a thing that we very much needed. And as I have seen you be part of this church the last couple of years, I am 100% convinced that the Lord put you in this place for such a time as this.
Well, I'm honored to be here, and I feel that that's true. You know,
yeah.
It's been a real blessing, and I feel blessed to know the people of this church and to the staff, you know.
Yeah.
And so
I'll never forget you when the first meeting that you led of our staff, you like opened it with prayer, and we were like, what? What is this? You know, sometimes, not that we hadn't done that before, but, you know, sometimes it's easy for us to get it. It's good for fresh eyes, fresh blood, and the Spirit to move in new ways, and He does that through people. And
I come from a tradition where we have Bible study, not Sunday school.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And so I've had to try to learn, it's Sunday school.
Right.
I always thought it was a Bible class, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we do in Sunday school, so I like it. Well, Ken, we invited you to join us today because Elizabeth and I were talking about. Let me tell you, we're going to talk about hospitality today. Is our theme today?
Great.
And the reason why we're talking about that is because we all three of us know and feel that it's central to who we are as Christians. It's central to our expression and how we live out our faith. And that Jesus Himself was the embodiment of hospitality in a lot of different ways. I I was at a different church service not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and the pastor there, shout out to Reverend Kate Floyd of Sandy Springs United Methodist Church, she was doing the opening up for communion, and she started the communion piece by talking about how everywhere Jesus went, he was a guest. He was always kind of at the hospitality of other people. He depended on that, and except for one spot, which was the Lord's Supper, the Lord's table. And at the Lord's table, Jesus is the host, and what it looks like for him to be hospitable at that moment where everyone's invited to this table. And it really just struck me, and I thought, man, I really want to have a conversation about hospitality in the church, hospitality in the Christian life, hospitality in our faith, individual lives, and everything as a disciple of Jesus. So I thought you were the best person to bring on and talk about this.
Glad I'm honored, glad to do that. Reminded me as you were talking about, that one time when Jesus was the host, he starts washing feet.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Because he's been in a situation where that courtesy wasn't afforded him.
Right, yeah.
So
you get this idea that Jesus is taking notes the entire time of his ministry, and he gets this because he's like, all right, this is what I want to do at the Last Supper, right? He's like, they didn't wash my feet. Wait till I do this.
This will poke them in the eye really good. Yeah, and it struck me as you were talking that, in the New Living Translation, that judgment scene, the people say, when he says, when I was a stranger and you invited me in.
Yeah.
And in the New Living Translation, they say, when did we ever see you a stranger and offer you hospitality?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh.
So that idea is Jesus is not only offering hospitality in those washing feet, but he's saying to us how you offer hospitality is a kind of a window into how you are following me.
Yeah,
So
no, that's really good.
I love that concept.
And that's another reason why we're having this conversation is because ever since we've been talking about welcoming the stranger during the season of Lent, I've been weighing on it's been weighing on my heart a little bit. So
Well, and Ken, I think you and I were randomly talking at a staff thing, and you started telling me about this book that you purchased recently and were reading with your staff. Well, we're all your staff, but your specific hospitality team.
Yeah. So I was probably a week into the job here, and surprise, surprise, Nick had left, and so I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And someone said, oh, by the way, you're in charge of Wednesday night dinner. And I'm like,
everything, Ken.
What?
You do everything.
Yeah. And so that first year was a little rocky.
yeah,
Trying to figure that out. But, the team that we have that does Wednesday night dinner and does Sunday morning hospitality.
yeah,
I want, I heard about this book. Actually, my wife told me about it by Will Guidara, who is a restaurant owner in New York. And he wrote a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. That was about 4 years ago. So as I was going to meet with my Wednesday night dinner, Sunday morning hospitality crew, providing the coffee and donuts for 52 weeks out of the year, 30 Wednesday night dinners with over 250 people every Wednesday night. I thought of that concept, unreasonable hospitality, and I ordered the book. Some of my staff, their first language is Spanish.
yeah.
So this book now is in Spanish.
Okay.
Oh, very cool.
And English.
Excellent.
So I ordered the book in their language. So
That was
they could
very
read it
hospitable of you.
in their own language. But it's just full of concepts, mostly related to the restaurant business. But now that people have seen kind of his concepts, it's being applied in a lot. He's being invited to speak in kind of corporate settings about these principles. So I found it to be, I wanted to give them that gift and to be able to say to them, I see you as offering unreasonable hospitality.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Kind of over and above.
So I know you haven't finished reading the book yet.
I haven't finished yet.
But what are some of the, if you had to define what unreasonable hospitality is, do you think you can take a shot at that?
Sure. So one of the concepts he kind of talks about is the difference between service and hospitality.
Oh, okay.
And he says service is you're going to serve people. They come in your restaurant. You're going to serve them. You're going to get them their food on time. You're going to get their order correctly. That's service. But he says that's black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know if you grew up. I grew up. I can remember black and white TV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Black and white. And hospitality is how you make them feel. That's color. That's adding that kind of color.
I like that
to
metaphor a lot.
So he describes that like he describes a scene where these visitors to New York in his restaurant, he hears them talking, and they're talking about, oh, tomorrow we go home.
Yeah.
Or finished our time in New York. And he hears them say, the one thing I'm going to regret is I never had a New York hot dog. So he runs out on the street, buys a hot dog from a street vendor, brings it into the chef, and in between their courses, he brings each of them a plate with 1/4 of a hot dog.
Oh, that's great.
That's now doctored up with a little ketchup and mustard and has a little bit of parsley.
Yeah.
And it looks, and he presents it to him. He said, I didn't want you to go home without having a taste of a New York hot dog.
That is so
That's
cool.
crazy.
I mean, that's unreasonable.
There is a...
That's hospitality.
Yeah.
Somebody's at their table talking, and the meal is going long, and they're worried about because they're parked.
Yeah.
And so he just hears that, finds out what kind of car they have, goes and puts money in the meter so they can just relax and enjoy their meal. How do you make people feel? How do you make them feel like this is an experience? He said, I'm sure those people went home talking about the hot dog, even though my chef was serving the best food.
World-class meal.
But what they went home talking about was how that made them feel. Heard and seen. And
I wonder if this guy has any connection with the TV show The Bear. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, there is a connection. I'm not sure exactly.
There's a scene in The Bear, which happens in Chicago, where the people at the restaurant they're trying to get a Michelin star or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really fancy. This guy makes it's great food. For those of you who haven't seen it, and the people are talking about the fact that they all they really wanted was some Chicago-style deep dish pizza. And so he goes out and gets a Chicago-style deep dish pizza, and they divide it up into four, just like the hot dog, right? And they put it out there.
Yeah.
So it's like that fictionalization of what happens in that book right there. And then there's another scene where the person is like, wow, we never got to see it snow in Chicago or whatever, and he creates all that snow out on the side of the building.
He's a co-producer of that show.
Okay, see, there we go. So that
so you're getting kind of that... some of the reality in that show.
That's fantastic. Okay, cool. That's very cool. That show is phenomenal.
I knew it was connected. I had to grab the book and look at the jacket.
Okay,
because I knew it mentioned.
So he puts that, or as a producer, that scene happens in the show, just in the Chicago style. Have you seen the show? Are you familiar with it?
I have watched some of it. I haven't watched it.
That's a fantastic show.
Seasons.
And it gets to something. That show gets to something that you and I were talking about right before we came on the air here. And Elizabeth, I think you hadn't walked in yet, but we were talking about how, in order to be truly hospitable to your guests, you have to be hospitable to each other. There has to be that like a spirit of hospitality amongst your staff or amongst your whatever. And that show gets into that thing too, because when they first start off, they don't like each other, like behind doors, right? And then as they learn to truly trust and love and care for each other, the service and the hospitality that happens outside the kitchen, in the dining room, it becomes evident.
To me, that what you're talking about, that's a perfect illustration of what it means to radiate the love of Christ. I mean, it has to start with you inside, and then it's how you treat the people right next to you, your spouse, your kids, your extended family, and then it's your friends, and then it's your neighbors next door. And so, thinking about that as a church, it's how we treat each other in the hallways as a staff. And if we do that well, that's going to radiate out of us. Yeah. If we feel like we are loved and we are welcomed here, then when we encounter a congregate coming in the doors, it's going to ooze out of us. It's going to get passed on naturally.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I do think that's So bringing that back into these four walls, I want the people who are working for us on Wednesday night, to serve us a meal for $12.
Yeah.
I want them to feel empowered to do something extra. So you might have noticed the big change to the salad bar over the last year.
It's gotten really good.
Now there's protein on the it's deviled eggs. It's all kinds of.
My daughter has taken advantage of that. Maybe a little bit too much.
There are cheese puffs on the salad bars.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just creating a sense of doing more than people expect. That's kind of the byline of this book, is that unreasonable hospitality is giving people more than they expect. Yeah. And I think that is true in our relationships. Take the food out of it, is trying to be there for each other and be more. One of the things Will Guidara says is, when my staff comes in, I know they have all the problems they bring in, but I want them to know that, this is, you're home here. This is, you're embraced here and you're empowered here, because I want them to not have to bring all of that to the table when they're serving someone. And I think we can help each other if we treat each other with that kind of unreasonable hospitality.
So. Well, and that honestly puts words to what I think you bring to us as a staff, Ken. You have a gift for making people feel seen and heard, and you take time to listen to people. And that just goes so far. In a busy world, we're a busy church. We do a lot of things, and we can very easily get caught up in rushing around and getting stuff done. But anytime I have encountered you, no matter what kind of chaotic day it is, you take time to stop and to ask how people are doing and to listen, truly listen to whatever their response might be. And that is a gift.
That's true.
And I appreciate when people do that with me as well. I feel like that's, it's not a program. It's like, let's adopt a program. So it's more of a way of thinking about how we go about interactions. I think that's important. It's important, so I think about it for our Sunday servants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the program is not just, I'm going to hand out these bulletins. The program is, how am I making people feel when they walk through the door?
Yeah.
And so let's help them feel that way when they walk through the door, our Sunday servants, so that they then radiate that to people who are coming to church.
Yeah. The other big one, where I see this a lot, is the funeral ministry. And that just, man, what a tender time to be able to be there for someone. We get people coming through these doors when we host a funeral. And this is, one of the most tender moments that they might experience in their lives. And to be able to be the church and to be there for them and to greet them with a warm smile, or to be able to easily and calmly tell them where the bathroom is, or make sure there's tissues sitting in the pews. That is such an important ministry. And we've got a lot of great volunteers that do that ministry. It's just, that's a big one for me.
I wonder if we shouldn't be reading that book as the larger staff can. I think that could go a long way in helping us to be more hospitable.
It's that idea of making people feel truly seen, making people feel heard, like they belong, kind of helping to set some expectations.
Yeah.
Caring more, trying harder, making people feel welcome, giving people more than they expect.
Yeah.
And that's I think the concept, if you go back to Jesus at the Last Supper, at communion, that's what he did. He took the Passover and gave it new meaning, meaning beyond what they were thinking about as this cadre of Jewish guys grown up in their households, and he gave it more meaning. And he, Peter is like, no, you're not washing my feet. No, that's essential that I do that.
Yeah.
So I do feel like there's that sense of helping people to feel heard, and the reality is Jesus was going to encounter Peter again, and he knew, hey, I need to do this for you now because we're going to have another conversation a little bit later.
It's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable.
It'll be a little harder.
I'm just preparing you.
So I just we need to have this intimate moment, because you're going to feel pretty vulnerable at another time, right?
That brings up a great aspect of hospitality that I think is really important, especially when we think about it in terms of Jesus Christ and discipleship, and that's the element of sacrifice that comes into play. I was saying earlier that this line that Reverend Floyd said really struck me, that Jesus was always a guest until he was the host at communion. But in a real sense, Jesus comes into the world as a guest. He comes into the world as a human being. He comes into the world he's completely dependent on the hospitality of everybody for a long time, like we all are as kids. Like, I don't know if you call that hospitality, but he's coming in as a guest into his own creation.
Ooh.
And there's something to be said about the fact that he's hosting all of creation is being hosted by the Lord in a sense, right? And yet he's returning or coming back to that, or being born into that creation as somebody who's like showing up as like truly undercover boss mode, right? like in a way that like it goes above and beyond what you might see on television, right?
It's a hysterical way to think about it. I love that.
But that level of sacrifice that Jesus took on in order to become the ultimate host, right? And to live out what it means to be not just the host, but to be the guest. So how does sacrifice play in our not practice? Because you said it's not a practice; it's a way of being, and the way that we're hospitable, and the way that we do hospitality. What role does sacrifice play in that?
There's an old hymn called "There's a Stranger at the Door." Are you familiar with that song?
I don't think I remember.
You could sing it for us.
There's a stranger at the door, let him in. And it goes on. Yeah. He's been there oft before, let the Savior in. So the whole idea is Jesus is at the door. Yeah. Are we going to invite him in?
Right.
Because it's going to be costly to us when we do. I'm sure the people that Jesus kind of pictures in Matthew 25 who welcomed a stranger or visited in prison, there was always a cost. There was always a sense of sacrifice.
It's a burden, you might say.
And Jesus was saying, as you sacrificed for these, least of these, you have shown me, that willingness, that sacrifice. Yeah. So you did it to me.
Yeah.
And I think your point is good. Jesus was essentially a guest for his whole life. You know, he started out as a guest before he was, even aware in a manger.
Right. Right. When there was no room for him, he was still a guest.
And so the question all along is, who's going to make room for him?
Right.
Who's going to welcome him?
Yeah.
Who's going to? And I saw this TV show once. Did I talk about this before? Called The Kindness Diaries.
I don't think so.
And this guy, it's like a Netflix, 3 seasons, but or 2 seasons. Anyway, he's going to travel across the U.S. In a yellow Volkswagen Beetle.
Okay.
An old one. And just rely on the kindness of strangers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How did that go for him?
Or yellow motorcycle. He's taking no money. He's not going to plan where he's going to sleep or eat. He's just going to rely on the kindness of strangers. And of course, he, meets people who, I'll buy you gas, or I'll do this for you, I'll do that. And eventually he travels around the world. So he's in India.
Wow.
And one of the scenes I remember is he meets this guy who he has no place to stay. This guy invites him. He and his children all have one room they sleep in, but they move out of the bed and give him the bed.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, what people don't know is at the end of the show, he picks somebody he's encountered and he says, I wasn't completely truthful with you. he's like an investment banker from England, and he's independently wealthy. And so he says, sitting on the side of the river in India, in Delhi, India, talking to this man who has 2 daughters, and he says, this is who I really am, and I've picked you, and I'm going to pay for your daughters to be able to go to school.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And so he picks somebody, but he's doing this travel relying on the kindness of strangers. And I've thought about that. The sacrifices people make to welcome Jesus into their lives, is the point.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely. That's really good.
Anyway,
was that called the Kindness
Diaries?
Diaries?
Called the Kindness
All
Diaries.
right, check that out.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
It's a really. I've watched it multiple times because I've just, he meets a homeless man who is unhoused in Pittsburgh, who's been unhoused for years, and he gets invited to sleep with him on the sidewalk.
Okay.
Wow.
Check that out. Yeah, that's great.
It's just the stories, I think, are demonstrative of that kind of welcome. So
I had this image of myself when I was at Candler 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Oh my gosh, I'm getting up there. But I had this vision of myself that when I graduated from Candler, from Emory, I was going to hit the road and just be like a traveling evangelist or whatever, right? And just go live on other people's hospitality, basically. Now, I didn't have any money to back that up later on. I'm not going to pick anybody. Leave that up to Jesus later on. But then that movie, based on that book, came out, Into the Wild, where that Emory kid does exactly that.
Right.
And it did not end up well for him. And so I changed my mind.
Oh, man.
But, man.
So, y'all know I took a Judaism class last semester.
Yeah. So Elizabeth is moving her way back up the traditional ladder, and has, I think, become full on Jewish now.
Just blew past Catholicism and went straight to Judaism. We're gonna go straight to the source.
So you already had
fine.
You had the easy ladder there.
So I was nerding out with one of our congregants. Shout out to Steve McKenzie, interior designer here at Northside Church. He was asking me about my class, and I was, getting all excited and telling him what I'd learned and everything. And he was telling me that he does, he's in the design business, and a couple of his clients are Jewish folks. And so the things that he has done to structure their home in such a way that hospitality is the center of what they do. So adding an extra room, with all, and that just kind of blew my mind. So the first example that he gave was, as a Jewish person, there's a mandate to invite, a person into your home. And if someone in your synagogue comes to you and says, hey, I have someone that's coming from out of town, I need you to be able to host, it's your obligate is not the right word, but the ritual, the law, it says, you have to be welcoming and you have to host them. And so they put certain things that are just built into the home that allow you to do that,
Right.
And so maybe there's
like a whole extra room.
A whole extra room, right? Maybe there's
exactly for that purpose.
Right. And maybe the guest suite has a lock on the outside of the door. So that way, if you have small children, maybe you don't know this person, then you can feel safe inviting them in, even though your small children are on the other side of the house. And that just blew my mind thinking about like the lengths that someone would go to just build that kind of system into their house in order to be able to be hospitable to a stranger. That was really neat.
I watch my wife's an interior designer, so I watch a lot of those design shows, and it's interesting, isn't it, that we usually design, hey, let's design this room as an office, and in case you have a visitor,
Right.
you can kind of fold out the bed for them. We didn't really plan on visitors. It's just kind of like,
that's
but you
good.
can do it. But you're talking about the sacrifice of actually dedicating square footage to the expectation
that we will be hosting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the stranger.
I think it's interesting that we are always sizing people up, unfortunately.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
We're always evaluating when we meet somebody. It's kind of, are they safe? And I understand that. Are they really deserving? Are they worthy?
Yeah, that's it right there.
You know, and Jesus is basically saying, how you welcome people who, without evaluating them.
Yeah.
don't you think that's what he means when he says, don't let the left hand know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah.
Don't stop and count out your money.
Right.
Just dip it into the bag and give it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be, measured about
scheming that. Or not scheming, but calculating, and not I don't even mean calculating in a bad way, but you're literally counting things that don't belong to you anyway. Yeah. And if you think about it at the end of the day, right, we talk about being stewards of what we have and stewards of creation and stewards of God's blessing. And you're sitting there kind of divvying it out based on what you think somebody else deserves.
Yeah.
And you're not any, that's way
Do they really deserve my openness, my friendliness, my...
Is it worth what's going to cost me? I think is what they're also assessing.
So getting back to your sacrifice.
Yeah.
There is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then that mindset of scarcity versus abundance.
Yeah. We come back to that a lot.
I don't have time to do that, or if I give you this, I'm not going to have access to it later. Yeah. I remember being in the car with a really good friend of mine, and we had gone to the grocery store or something, and I remember I had a big old bunch of grapes in my lap, and we had probably gotten like cheese or something we were eating, and we were driving somewhere, and that was our lunch, right? And we stopped at a stoplight, and there was, a person on the corner that has a sign, needed food. And she just like grabs everything that was in my lap. Like there was like a grape halfway in my mouth, and she just like grabs all of it and just like hands it to this person. And that moment blew me away because it was just like we had just bought this stuff, and we were late. I don't remember what it was. We were going somewhere, and I was like, she saw me kind of pause. She was like, what? Like, well, why would you hesitate? There is a person here that is hungry, that needs food, and we're just going to give them all of it. And that was probably 15 years ago, and that moment has stuck with me.
Sounds like, is that a Kathy story?
That's a Kathy story.
Sounds like a Kathy story. Yeah. That's funny.
Didn't hesitate. I love it, right? Yeah. And so just approaching, whether it's someone on the corner or someone that walks in the door of our church or a neighbor or whatever it is, being ready to always approach that person with everything you got, and that heart of sacrifice and kindness and warmth.
Yeah. So going back to kind of the Wednesday night dinner.
Yeah.
So as an example, a year or so ago, we made a table for all this, high school students, middle school students.
Yeah.
That'll be cool to sit at the table. And then someone from kind of the older adults came to me and said, can we have our own table?
Is that how that happened? I didn't even realize.
You need a table? I said, absolutely. So, it's like, okay, well, how can we help people find community here?
Yeah.
And this last Wednesday night dinner, there a couple of folks that were sitting at the table, and they got there right at the beginning, and after everyone else has left, they're still sitting there talking and fizzing. Cool. And I just thought that's a bit of an example of there's something here that I really cherish and relish, and so I'm just going to stay because I've found a welcome here.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I think that's kind of atmosphere. You want to create a kind of atmosphere.
Yeah. You want people to feel welcome. You want them to feel like you want them there, right? And you want them to feel like it's like you were talking about before, the color, right? You want them to feel that color, the color of life, color of faith, color of the community. You want them to not want to miss it, right? You want them to be like, I'm coming back here next week. This is awesome. You want people like that every time they walk in the door here at Northside, whether it's or any church for that matter. You want people to be like, I don't want to miss it. Whatever's going on there, I want to be there, right? Because of how I felt the last time I was there. And of course, that hospitality that we are providing is just a conduit for the Holy Spirit, right? What they're feeling is the movement of God, the Spirit of God. Yeah. And when we are hospitable in that way, that's when we allow the Spirit to really flow and grab onto people. And that's something that we, again, not just in the way we operate with church members, but the way we operate as a staff, to absolutely the way we operate in our own families, and with strangers on the street. That's the kind of the be hospitable might be one of the best ways to talk about following Jesus.
I love the Hebrews passage, Hebrews 13, that says, don't forget to show hospitality to strangers. For some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it. That I don't know how many angels we have welcomed,
right?
Because we didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to miss out
opportunity
on, being able to do that.
That makes me think of the show Highway to Heaven. Did you ever watch that?
I did.
With Michael Landon?
Yes.
Did you ever watch that?
No.
You know what we're talking about? It's Michael Landon was an angel.
She's too young.
Yeah. I guess that's from the 80s.
Hey, listen, I liked TV Land a lot when I was growing up, so I've seen some things.
But
I
that's
watched a lot of
great
Touched by an Angel.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
There you go.
One of the kind of iconic sort of negative stories about church is, guest shows up and sits down, and then somebody comes and says, you need to move because this is my pew. That's one of those kind of, surely that didn't really ever happen, kind of thing. And I think
it probably did.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
And one of the stories I remember that really shaped my early ministry, when you're around a college campus, you get a lot of different kinds of people, a lot of people. And I remember reading this story about, it kind of started with, this guy coming to church and being criticized because he didn't have on nice clothes and everything. And of course, the end of the story is, he's in the church again, but now he's in the casket,
Oh, yeah.
and he's well dressed.
Wow.
Now he's acceptable.
Ooh.
Wow.
So you have these stories. I think anytime when the church is is by nature supposed to be welcoming, putting myself aside so that others can have a seat kind of thing, there's always an opportunity to do that badly or not do that well. And I think that's why, the idea of don't forget to do this. The idea is you'll have to remind yourself, because we all tend to be pretty selfish.
We get caught up in ourselves. That's one of the things that I push in almost everything that we put together for the devotionals and the writing and the devotionals. You'll see a common theme come up in my writing and my thinking in my classes and stuff, and that's about emptying ourselves and denying ourselves. I think it's being poor in spirit. It's like the first thing that has to happen in order for the transformation to begin in our hearts. And I've said this for years and years and years, and finally somebody pushed me on it and said, well, how do you do that? I mean, it's easy to say empty myself or to deny myself. What are you talking about? Like, what does that even look like, right? On a regular Tuesday afternoon, how do I empty myself, right? And I think showing hospitality, particularly if it's sacrificial, is exactly how you do that. Serving other people is exactly how you do that, right? Whether it's in the vein of hospitality or going out and finding people who are in need that you can serve, making sandwiches on Wednesday morning here at Northside, or getting up and letting somebody have a pew that is your pew, or it doesn't have to be huge. Right? It's just the small things you do that can build into the bigger things, but just start somewhere where you're giving up something that you love or that's cherished to you or that's important to you, and you're doing it for somebody else. That's yourself being emptied, right? Emptied into another person or into the work of the kingdom. And so hospitality.
I think it's just a matter of, when it comes down to it, is I want to be like Jesus.
Yeah.
I want to be like Jesus.
But do we really? Do we really, Ken?
Well,
we say that.
we don't always live up to it. Some of it's aspirational.
Yeah.
Right? But I do think that becomes kind of a test for me. Is this what I did? Is that being more like Jesus or less like Jesus?
That's great.
You mentioned that poor in spirit passage where blessed are the poor in spirit, and I remember doing probably in the beginning of my ministry taking some Greek and learning that there were two Greek words for poor.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Greek word panes. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Or tokos. And one is, I'm so poor, I have to get up and go to work every day.
Yeah.
Right? The other one is, I'm so poor, I have to beg.
Yeah.
And you can imagine which one Jesus used.
Yeah.
He used the tokos, blessed are the tokos in spirit, the people who know that they have no resource to bring.
Right.
Those are the people.
Yeah.
And I think if we approach our lives knowing what he's done for us and what, that I don't, nothing in my hand I bring, kind of concept, then I think it's easier to look at other people and say, let me serve them in some way.
I was reading something on the beach when we were at the beach a couple weeks ago, and it was talking about pride and what is actually the root of pride. What does it mean to be prideful? And it was the person, I can't remember who said this, it might have been Augustine, but it was somebody who was saying that at its core, pride is the idea that you are the one responsible for all the good and blessedness in your life, right? You're the one who did this, right? And being humble, or the opposite of pride, moving away from pride, is to be able to recognize that everything that you have is a gift from God. And once you do that, then you can begin to, when you look at somebody else's life, if you look at them with pride, you're like, man, they're doing better than me, or I want that. You become covetous, you become angry, you become violent sometimes. But if you realize that everything is a gift from God, then you can look at somebody else and realize, man, God's really blessed that person. And you can actually participate in their blessing, even though you don't have what they have necessarily. It's a whole different mentality and way to see the world. And I would imagine that that's the same way with pride and hospitality, right? Once you realize that everything you have is a gift, then of course you feel moved, or it's easier to be generous with what's been given to you and to be more hospitable. And welcome in the people who you can now see that God is using you as a conduit to pour blessing out into their life.
Yeah.
Right.
I think grief has been trying to teach me a little bit about hospitality, in the sense of this awareness of what people go through on an everyday basis, losing a parent and realizing, like, a parent that I did not think I was really that close to or even fond of on some days, and thinking that it wouldn't really impact me that much, and realizing that it hit me like a truck, and what that felt like to go through that. And then this idea that everybody's got parents, whether they like them or not, or whether they, feel like they've done a good job at being a parent, and everyone's got a parent. And there's so many people that said things to me, people that were, a good bit older than me, that would say, oh, I think I'm still grieving my mom. I'm still grieving my dad. Or I never grieved my dad when they pass, and this just kind of this awareness of, we are all walking through the world holding on to these things. And if even, 40% of the people that I encounter in my day are feeling even a slice of what I was feeling last fall, like, my God, do I not need to show up and be hospitable to them? Like, how much can I just love you and be hospitable to you and give you all the grace that I can possibly muster? Because the chances that you're going through something like that are pretty high.
Yeah, that's
pretty
true.
high.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
That's a real good word. Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us today on this conversation on hospitality. You knocked it out of the park.
I enjoyed it.
Ken walked in and he's like, I got nothing to say. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
False.
And I said,
Ken's always got wisdom.
Just start talking and the wisdom will flow.
That's right.
All right, Ken, thank you so much for being here. Elizabeth,
Glad to be here.
Thank you guys. And we'll see you hopefully next week.
Peace.
Awesome.